For 100 days, I lived the life of an Allosaur, one of the most fearsome predators of the Jurassic Age. In a world ruled by giants, survival meant more than just brute strength. Across vast ancient plains and dense prehistoric forests, I hunted prey, clashed with rival carnivores, and gained a pack of my very own. This was more than a simulation. This was an unforgiving ecosystem where every roar echoes a challenge, and every day could be your last. Welcome to the world of the Allosaur, and to tell you this story, we have to go back to day one. On day one, we spawned in on the beaches of the East Coast. As a young hatchling, this would provide the ideal starting location for us to begin our life. While one day we would become the biggest predator to ever roam the Jurassic, feared by almost all, for now we were just a small hatchling, and vulnerable. But even though we are small, there were still meals to be had. This giant crab would be a perfect first meal for us, and would help us to keep our strength for what was to come. As the sun began to set on day one, I ventured inland to perform some quests. Completing quests such as picking up certain types of mushrooms, discovering new areas, and eventually building our very own nest will be key to reach our top size. For now though, it was baby steps, and it was time to look for somewhere to sleep on our very first night. After a rather risky swim, we were fortunate enough to avoid any crocs and made it to our sleeping position for our very first night. The next day, it was time to do some more quests to help our growth towards becoming an adolescent. After collecting some button mushrooms and flowers, we grew a little and then went down to a nearby lake for a drink. In a prehistoric world, simple drinks were often fraught with danger, especially for a juvenile Allosaur. But on this occasion, we were lucky. I left a green valley where I'd been completing some quests, as it was now time to return to Ripple Beach, and I needed to hunt. I did manage to kill one critter, but after killing it, it turned out that it was made of noxious meat, which was not something that we were currently able to eat. With my hunger growing, I started to navigate the cliffs around Ripple Beach, which was turning out to be a little bit of a challenge. I decided to brave the fall on this one, and while it hurt, as a young Allosaur, the fall was not fatal, and I decided to sleep off the effects of the fall that night. I continued to explore the next day, reaching new areas such as Stego Mountain, which gave me the required XP to reach the adolescent stage. So far, we had survived on scraps, but the main thing was we were still alive and fighting another day. After finally discovering the Ripple Beach, on that beach the next morning, I found a baby washed up megalodon. At first I thought this had the potential to be a great meal, and I really needed one. However, on closer inspection, the shark had clearly been there for a couple of days, and the meat had already turned noxious. Almost starving now, I had to eat, and eat quickly. No longer a little hatchling anymore, the various critters that I found on this beach would not fill the stomach up as easily, but a couple of crabs and lizards later, and we were at least in a much better position. However, across the beach, I saw something very interesting. Another similar-sized Allosaurus had emerged, and it was time to face off. Adolescent Allosaurs likely did not frequently fight each other in a serious, lethal way, but some level of aggressive interaction, especially over food, territory or dominance, was probably common, as it is in many modern-day carnivores. The question was this Allosaur a future packmate, or would this be a fight to the death? After circling around each other for a little bit, it seemed obvious that neither of us were after a fight, and rather we wanted to create our own pack that was ready to rule these lands. This is Owen, an adolescent Allosaur that would be joining us on this 100-day journey. As a pack of two, we were already in a much stronger position, and we decided to immediately focus on our questing so that we can continue to grow big and strong. We went along the beach collecting clams and turtle shells together, and then I took a quick break from that and headed off inland to complete a personal quest of collecting some flowers. I killed another toxic lizard, which I couldn't eat at least, but it did help me towards my quest towards killing 5 critters, before returning to the beach to collect some lake sponge, and then snack on a quick crab, as I was once more on the verge of starving. To close the day as I went to sleep, I checked my abilities and saw that I had a new claw attack that would cause higher bleed on targets. This was certainly one that I would want to equip before getting into any battles. Turns out I actually had quite a few new abilities to unlock, ranging from resilient scales that allowed us to heal quicker from bleed attacks, to long distance runner that boosted our stamina. After equipping these, I got back on my feet and went for a drink at a nearby lake. Back to almost starving once more, I found a burrow, and after some digging, popped out a lizard, which immediately tried to run. But as an Allosaur, there was no getting away, and I tracked it down and got the kill. A small meal, but one to satisfy me for now. But just as I was finished eating this lizard, something very interesting walked past. A small juvenile Argentinosaurus walked by. Argentinosaurus was a massive herbivorous sauropod from the late Cretaceous period, estimated to be 40 meters long and 100 tons in weight, making it one of the largest land animals ever. Discovered in, you guessed it, Argentina, it likely used its long neck to feed on high vegetation and relied on its enormous size for defense. Still, this was by no means an adult Argentinosaur, and while big, was nowhere near the size it would get to, and I was hungry. With no Owen in sight, I decided to engage on my own, and the battle began. With an effective knockback attack that appeared almost impossible to avoid, I decided to try and get in for some sneaky bleed attacks to try and get a gradual kill on this thing. But it appeared that I wasn't the only one with a bleed attack. Injured, I reluctantly decided that I was going to have to retreat from the fight, and I needed to heal up. Despite being much younger than me, I clearly was not going to be taking down any Argentinosaurus anytime soon. Injured and almost starving, I arrived at the area known as the Salt Flats, which was luckily a bit of a hotspot for some more critters. I ran around killing multiple lizards, and then found what I assumed to be a Allosaurus, and after eating all of these, I almost had a half-full belly, which I was going to need for sure, as I was still healing from my last fight. I then did a bit of questing at first, as I had to collect some salt rock, which I successfully did, and then got 25 roots. These two quests were enough to propel me to the sub-adult stage, which gave me the opportunity to build my own nest. Here though would not be the ideal location, and even though I put one down for my growth boost, I soon abandoned it and would come back to a nest later on. That night I entered the big lake, but any hopes of a nice easy drink was immediately squashed when I saw something terrifying in the water. It appeared though that this was a bit of a hotspot at night, as across the water there was also a massive Acrocanthosaurus. Although when an adult Argentinosaurus appeared on the scene, even the fully grown Acro fled from the scene. I collected some clams for a quest, but I really needed to take a drink, as I was getting seriously thirsty. Little did I know what waited for me in these waters, and around them. I nervously approached the water, but there was a spot of luck, as a Suchomimus who was stalking me in the water was attacked by two sharks. Injured and bleeding, the Suchomimus just about escaped, but when the nearby Capro began to run, I hid in a bush, in the hope that he wouldn't see me. Too late. The Capro saw me and engaged, and I decided to fight back. However, every chomp from this Capro was doing some serious damage, and thus I decided to run. A big chase then occurred, but with the higher stamina and similar speed, I safely got away from this one. A close call, and a bit humiliating to lose to a small crocodile, but we would learn. Still, however, needing a drink, I tried to have a quick one on the other side of the lake, but I could hear something coming once again. I managed to run away just in time before a Liopleurodon burst out of the water. A close escape. And this lake was clearly a death trap. With my thirst though at least somewhat quenched, I snacked on a critter and prepared to get out of there as soon as possible. But no, before I realised it, I was being stalked by a Eutyrannus. I attempted to flee, but the Uti was quick. Still not healed up from my last fight, I wasn't really ready to engage, but I had no other choice. This was likely to be the end of my story, until out of nowhere came an aggressive critter. I can only assume this critter decided to go for the Eutyrannus instead of me, as wounded but alive, I managed to escape this fight. This was perhaps my luckiest escape yet, and it was clear that I still had a lot of growing up to do. So I set my sights on reuniting with my packmate Owen, as I had no idea where I'd actually lost him. I ran far away from the Green Valley, through the dried lake and into the mountains. I needed to find a place to rest, so I continued to run all the way through the night until I stumbled across a home cave, where I would safely be able to sleep through the night without having to worry about predators. It had been an exhausting few days for me, and I needed a couple of days of rest. On day 25, I exited the home cave to find Owen ready and waiting for me. We were both bigger and stronger than the last time we had seen each other, and together we would now become one of the deadliest teams around these parts. Still though, Owen was noticeably taller than me and bulkier, so I assumed that he had now hit the full adult growth stage, something that I was yet to do. So I set my sights on getting some quests done, in a quest to become a full adult Allosaur. Together, Owen and I explored together, getting some quests done together, and having a drink at the crater. With the power of 2, we soon found ourselves back at the same lake that had nearly taken my life on numerous occasions now, located in the Green Valley. There, out of the water, came a young Spinosaurus who wanted to engage. The fight began and both of us engaged. As the bigger, stronger Allosaur, Owen had the bigger bite and more bulk, but I had speed and agility on my side. While he took on the Spino 1v1, I nipped round the back of it, getting in some good hits and bleed attacks. This was a fight we would surely not lose, and soon enough the Spino retreated back into the water, and we thought that it was submitting. Despite being low health though, it re-emerged to fight again, and Owen got the final hit. This poor Spinosaur must have been on the verge of starvation to have taken this fight, but it was a meal that would feed both of us for days to come. We rested for a full day, as we recovered from the fight and our huge meal, but the next morning we had a visitor. A brand new Allosaur had emerged out of nowhere, similar size to me. This was Blob, who I could immediately tell meant no harm. Still though, as the bigger, stronger Allosaur, Owen was the current alpha of the pack, and we had to get his approval as well. After a short while we got Owen's approval, and Blob had now joined the pack. He did seem to be a little bit slow in the head, and much weaker than Owen and I, but would still be a valuable asset to our pack. Our strength in numbers was key. The three of us set off on our grand adventure as we travelled across the Green Valley as the sun began to set. That night though, as the fog rolled in, we stopped for a drink at a nearby river, when we suddenly realised we were not alone. Nearby was a Giganotosaurus, and he was challenging us. With thunder and lightning echoing in the background, it was all set for an epic fight. As a pack of 3, we felt confident that we could slowly take this thing down, but we'd have to play this one smart. Unfortunately for us, it appeared that Blob did not have much fighting experience. As the fight began, he decided, unlike us who were running in and bleeding the Giga and then running away, to fight this thing one-on-one. By the time he realised his mistake and tried to escape, it was all too late for Blob. We had lost the fight, and Owen and I decided to retreat. Back down to a pack of 2, the loss of Blob was disappointing, but both now fully grown, we knew that as a pair, we would be able to put up a good fight with just about anything on this island. A fully grown Allosaur does need to eat though, and at our size, the occasional snacks on critters were just not cutting it anymore. We needed to kill, and we needed to kill big. We were getting hungry, so we set off towards the Grand Plains, a dangerous area that would be likely packed with dangers and various creatures looking for a fight. But starving, we had no choice, and as we pressed on, we closed in on our destination. We spotted an adult Gigantoraptor. Gigantoraptor was a giant toothless bird-like dinosaur from the late Cretaceous of Mongolia, measuring about 8 meters long and weighing about 1.4 tons, making it the largest known oviraptorosaur. Initially, it decided to engage with us, but quickly realised that this was a 2v1 fight that it was not going to win, and it attempted to run. By the skin of its teeth and only a bite or 2 away from death, the Gigantoraptor escaped our clutches, resting and hiding in the trees nearby. As Owen and I recovered our stamina, we soon realised that we had lost our prey in the dense fog of the night. An extremely frustrating result, especially considering the energy that we exerted trying to take this thing down. However, we did have some good news. Out of the fog re-emerged none other than Blob. He was back and with a point to prove after his disastrous run in the pack last time. With Owen and I on the verge of starving, the welcome addition of a third Allosaur was very welcome as we entered the hunting grounds of the Grand Plains. The Grand Plains was a pretty terrifying place to be at the best of times, but in this dense fog we would have to be extra cautious and pick our fights very carefully. In the bushes, a Caprosuchus watched us, but when we fortunately decided to stumble right into its direction, it had no choice but to flee, and the chase was on. The Capro was quick, but we were faster. However, what we didn't realise was that it had a secret jump attack that allowed it to get just about out of reach. I didn't have the energy to hunt anything else, and thus we decided to wait out the Capro to see if it would come down. The next morning, as the sun rose, we had another addition to the fight. A Quetzalcoatlus, the largest flying dinosaur to ever exist, perched on a rock with the Capro. Whether these two were now a team was unclear, but it was not about to put us off. As we waited all day, and it soon turned night again, what we failed to realise is that we were now the ones being hunted. An entire army of Caprosuchuses had emerged out of absolutely nowhere, possibly to help their friend on the rock, and were now attacking us. 5 Capros versus 3 Allos, this was sure to be a battle for the ages. However, Owen and I had 2 problems. Whenever the Capros would get low, they would simply join their friend on the rock, and the second problem was Blob. Unable to hold his own once more, our poor adolescent Allosaurus bit the dust again, and we had somehow lost a fight against some crocodiles. With an adult Giganotosaurus suddenly also arriving on the scene, Owen and I fled, defeated again, while the Capros tucked into their hearty meal. Many of them were low on health themselves, but with Blob gone, it was too risky to continue a fight in a 2 versus 5. As we looked to escape the Grand Plains, we were followed by one of the Capros, who wasn't hunting us this time, but rather giving us Blob's trophy. If we did ever meet up with our reincarnated Blob again, giving him this would allow him to quickly reach the adult stage once more. A nice gesture at least from our Capros, and I picked up the trophy in case it would ever come in handy, and then disappeared into the hills with Owen at my side. A couple of days later, you join us at Sharptooth Marsh, as we meet up once more with Blob outside the nearby home cave. It has been a rough couple of days for Owen and I, getting by surviving on scraps such as lizards and bugs, but with Blob given his trophy and back to being an adult once more, we were ready to fight, and we needed a big meal. Options, however, out here were limited, and when we came across a Carcharodontosaurus, it was certainly not the most ideal matchup. Still, despite its size and forceful bite, there were 3 of us, and we knew that we had to give it a go, as we needed to eat.
Return to the Mac. Get up what it is, what it does, what it is, what it isn't. Looking for a better way to get up out of bed instead of getting on the internet and checking a new hit me. Get up. First shot, pimp strut walking. A little bit of humble, a little bit of cautious. Somewhere between like Rocky and Cosby's for the game. Nope, nope, y'all can't copy yet. Glad moonwalking, and this here is our party. My posse's been on Broadway, and we did it all way. Chrome music. I shed my skin and put my bones into everything I record to it. And yeah, I'm on. Let that stage light go and shine on down. Got that Bob Barker suit game and Plinko in my style. Money, stay on my craft and stick around for those pounds. But I do that to pass the torch and put on for my town. Trust me, on my INDEPENDENT shit hustling. Chasing dreams since I was 14 with the 4-track.
We were all bloody from the fight and losing health fast from the Carchar's own bleed attack. But eventually, just in the nick of time, we took it down and enjoyed the biggest meal and victory of our life so far. It had taken over 50 days, but we were starting to finally feel that we had our own place in these unforgiving lands. After finishing our meal, that night we took a drink at a nearby pool of water, and then slept for a short while as we attempted to digest our monster meal. The next step for us was to claim some territory as a pack, but on our way to the Green Valley, we ran into the Tyrant Lizard King, who was blocking our path. This fight soon turned ugly, as out of nowhere a strong aggressive critter joined in, and as we split up in all the carnage, the Rex zoned in on the weakest of the group, and as always, it was Blob who was the victim once again. Owen and I took our leave from the scene, while the Rex feasted on the corpse of Blob. Our pack of 3 was once more back down to 2, and Blob was still yet to truly make an impact as part of our group. Owen and I stopped for a drink at a nearby lake that night, before then taking out the biggest tortoise I have ever seen, which actually provided a nice hearty meal for the pair of us. And we would need that meal, as we were on our way to a waystone, to once again be reunited with Blob, who was certainly looking a lot smaller than the last time we had seen him. This adolescent Allosaurus still had a lot to learn, but but without us he would have no hope at all. So we decided to once more take him under our wing, in the hope that he would pick up some of our skills. We spent a couple of days traversing across this prehistoric island, letting Blob complete various quests to get a bit bigger and stronger, before reaching the Grand Plains on the night of day 70. This was the same Rex less than 10 days ago we had just lost a fight to, and we all wanted revenge. In more open ground this time, we had the upper hand. We took turns in landing both bite attacks and claw bleeding attacks on this Rex, slowly whittling its health down. In the end, the rematch was not even a contest. This time, the Allosaurus had triumphed, and we feasted on a big meal. We all ate our fill and then slept throughout the rest of the night. After waking up though, it appeared that the plains had got rather busy, with a host of dinosaurs here to fight, including a Giganotosaurus. As the pack had just eaten, none of us were hungry, and there was no point in us engaging in any of these fights, so instead we just decided to just watch a bit, as all sorts of different species fought around us. But it wasn't long before we found ourselves being the ones being hunted. As night rolled in on the evening of day 72, a group of Utahraptors attacked. Jumping on our backs and attempting to slowly bleed us to death. This was a messy fight, and we were outnumbered once again 5-3. Just like the Capros had, we found them once more targeting Blob, signalling out the weak link of our group. As a pair of nearby Spinosaurs watched on, the battle raged onwards. The Raptors now had us completely circled, and they all knew that Blob was weak. We tried to slowly and carefully leave the fight, but for Blob once more, the game was up. The weakest Allosaur to ever walk these lands had once more left us, and the Utahraptors feasted on his corpse. This Allosaur was a pure walking meal at this point. But for Owen and I, things were about to get a lot more intense. Attempting to leave the Grand Plains as there was now only two of us, we were ambushed by a hungry Carcharodontosaurus. By the skin of our teeth we had already taken one of these down, but there were three of us when that had happened, and the odds were now stacked against us. Still though, Owen and I as a team were not to be dismissed, and we put up more than a strong enough fight. In the end, the Carchar was forced to run, hiding up on a cliff. Boasting the bigger bite and a nasty tail attack that could knock us back, we decided that it was not worth pursuing this kill for now. The meal from the Rex was enough to keep us going, and we decided to sleep off the effects of what had been a very tiring day for us. When we awoke the next morning, we were still yet to heal up fully from the previous day's battles, but we were now starting to get a bit hungry. Not in a position yet to make a big kill as we were still healing, we both decided to unlock the ability to scavenge, which now as a full adult we could do. This would allow us to survive off bones on the floor, as well as eat noxious meat. The meal was a small one, but we couldn't afford to stick around the Grand Plains much longer. There were just too many apex predators here for our liking. Instead, we headed off to Sharptooth Marsh for a couple of days, where we survived off scavenging bones and eating giant frogs, which appeared to be surprisingly tasty. But it appeared that even out of the Grand Plains, we were unable to avoid the apexes for long, as that night we were ambushed by an adult Giganotosaur while trying to take a drink. The fight as a whole was going pretty well before I ran off a small cliff trying to avoid an attack and taking some unfortunate fall damage. As the Giga began to retreat, I didn't have the health left to give chase, and Owen and I decided to let it go. Yet the battle wasn't over just yet. Sensing blood following the battle with the Giga, 2 Megalanias rushed in, going for an easy kill. This would be a big mistake. Despite the fact I was still hurting, we had more than enough power to take down not just one, but both of the Megalanias, which gave us both now a hearty meal and a full stomach to sleep away the night on. With more confidence now, following our victories the night before, we returned to the Grand Plains, where we soon ran into the biggest predator that we had ever seen. This was an adult Acrocanthosaur, and we could hear it coming a mile away. It was after a kill. After tanking a couple of bites from this thing, Owen and I quickly realised that we needed to get out of here as soon as possible. This thing was pretty quick, but thanks to our superior agility and stamina, we were just about able to escape with our lives. Owen and I fled to the mountains, where a very familiar face reappeared. Back again for what felt like his 50th tryout at this point was Blob. We rested off the effects of the Acro fight, and then that night entered the Grand Plains once more, where we found an Allosaurus, who we decided to try and take on. This fight though did not go exactly to plan, as it turned out that it had a vicious bleed attack of some sort, severely wounding Blob and Owen. We ended up moving on from this injured Allosaur, all licking our wounds, only to run into a solo Styracosaurus, backed into a cliff. This surely would be an easy meal for us though. Approaching from all sides, we attempted to isolate our prey, and whittle it down with our gradual bleed attacks. This approach was working well, despite the Styracosaurus standing its ground and getting in some good hits, until the young gun Blob once more ran in too deep and was suddenly very low on health. Sensing an opportunity here, the wounded Styracosaur attempted to chase off Blob and Owen, while I followed behind, getting in plenty of bites and wounding it some more. This was going brilliantly, until for some unexplainable reason, Blob decided to run back in and got himself killed. As we stared at his body and the Styracosaur swiftly ran off into the distance, Owen and I knew at this point we had to get involved in a bit of dinosaur cannibalism. Blob's greatest asset to the pack had actually been his death. It's been 10 days since you last met up with our Allosaur pack. Blob was once more back for his final chance in our pack to really prove that he was worthy of a spot. As we approached day 100, we hadn't fed in days and needed to make a kill. A couple of giant turtles would help for sure, but wouldn't last for too long. As we stopped for a drink at a nearby lake, we realised that we were being watched by a Therizinosaurus. Instinctively, we attacked, but the Therizino was able to back himself into a corner, and suddenly we found ourselves in a very tough position. We weren't able to land a hit without it landing one of us, and with all of us relatively low and this thing hitting like a truck, we had to decide to move on. On day 100, we entered the Green Valley. This would be the ideal nesting ground to claim, as other Allosaurs had already done, but if we wanted to, we would be forced to contemplate taking on 2 Spinosaurs. This was a mismatch in reality, but we were hungry and wanted the territory, and led by Owen, he charged in, which meant we had to follow. We battled hard, landing plenty of bites on the Spinosaurs, but suddenly the leader of our pack went down. With Owen gone, I was now firmly established as the leader of the Allosaur pack, and with just Blob under my wing, I would have to take the reins quickly, or in this world, face the prospect of extinction. Thank you so much for watching my latest video. I hope you guys have all enjoyed my first foray into Path of Titans. Let me know what dinosaur you would like me to do next and spending 100 days living the life of. Don't forget, if you guys do want early access to any of these videos, consider becoming a member of the channel. Oh, and also, why not watch this video that YouTube have put on your screen right now? They reckon you will love it, and so do I. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.